We added the top NFL greatest players list by none other than me, J Heat Sports Media. Now we on number 5. The list has now gotten to a real special place. The 5 best NFL players to ever lace them up, to ever put the pads on. Now with this list, I'm going to show a little more respect. And instead of going through 5 people like I've been doing all the way to this point, we're going to focus on number 3, 4, and 5 for this video. Reason being, at this point, each one of these individuals, you have an argument to say they're the greatest to ever play the game of football. If you came to me with this 5, I would have no argument if you were like, this guy, he's the best that's ever played the game in my opinion, or this guy, he's the best that ever played the game in my opinion. I know we get all caught up on who's the GOAT, and people think there should be an unquestioned GOAT in football, being that there's 2 sides of the field plus special teams, and the fact that you have so many different positions, the different eras, the different rules. It's real hard to just outright say somebody's better than somebody else in the sport in general. But I'm splitting hairs here, giving you my opinion. And coming in at number 5 is none other than Lawrence Taylor, the LT. Lawrence Taylor played for the New York Giants. He was a 10-time All-Pro, 8 times first team. LT is, in my opinion, the greatest defender of all time. He's a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, but more importantly, he's a champion 2 times over. 2-time champ. More important than that, though, he's the only defensive player that has, in the modern era, the defensive prowess that he was able to get the league MVP award. Not just the Defensive Player of the Year. Lawrence Taylor was the NFL MVP. That's very significant. And he was able to do that at the outside linebacker. He revolutionized the game. Till this day, people are still drafting and scouting linebackers based on things that Lawrence Taylor made a norm. And some things that he could do that others still to this day can't do. His athleticism, his instincts, his attitude, his heart, everything, his leadership, everything top notch. Lawrence Taylor was out there doing things that wasn't in the playbook. Famous story of his with Bill Parcells, when Parcells told him the stuff he was doing out there that it just wasn't in the playbook. He didn't have something written down or planned for the things that Taylor was doing. And LT told him, well, it's some good stuff. That ain't quite the words he said, but he said, you better get it in the book then, because it's a doozy. Because for sure, he could just go off schedule and make things happen that just weren't normal for an NFL defensive player to be able to do without really hurting their team. LT was special. He's my number 5. But like I said, he could be the greatest of all time, in my opinion. Also, a guy that I have seen on lists as the greatest of all time, none other, we going back, Jim Brown. Jim Brown's my number 4. Jim Brown was spectacular. Jim Brown was a 9-time All-Pro, 8 times first team. He was an All-Pro every year he played football. He only played 9 seasons. Then stopped while he was still in his peak and decided, I'm going to go act. But while he was playing, he was phenomenal. The best player in the league all 9 years he was playing, for real. The only player ever to step into the National Football League and be not only considered the best player in football, but prove it by being the league MVP. Nobody has ever been rookie and league MVP in the modern era, for sure, but in football, for sure, as far as I know. Jim Brown is that special, and he won the league MVP a second year in a row, and then went on to win it the last year he was in the league. Jim Brown was a champion as well. He was before his time, people say, but even in a later time, he could have been a guy that would have still been just as special, because his size, athletic ability, and speed was something that really was phenomenal, not just back then, but for years to come after that. Jim could run you over, run around you, and when he broke away, you weren't catching him. He could throw the football when he needed to, catch the football. There was nothing he couldn't do on the football field. I'm sure he could play defense if he wanted to, but he just didn't. He was a Hall of Fame lacrosse player, just to throw that in there, the type of athlete he was. This is a guy that is on the top 5, the top 10 of most people's greatest athletes of all time. That's Jim Brown. And then at number 3, up until the last 10 years, I think was consensus on more people. If you didn't have Jim Brown, you had Jerry Rice as the greatest football player of all time. Jerry Rice played with Joe Montana and had people wondering, was it more Joe or him that was making that squad good? And the quarterback is the most important position on the field, but Jerry was the type of wideout. He would take the ball to the house on a 10, 15-yard slant. His speed was deceptive because he only ran like a 4.5 or a 4.6, but when he had the ball in his hand, it seemed like you couldn't catch him. He was elusive when he needed to be, and his routes, he ran at precision. If the ball touched his hands, it was caught. One-handed, two-handed, on his tippy toes, whatever he got to do. This guy retired and still holds the record for receiving touchdowns in a career. The difference in touchdowns for his career from number 1 to number 2 is the same as the distance from number 2 to number 7 on that list. That's how big a gap Jerry Rice had. He was a phenomenal athlete overall as well. When you look at all-time touchdowns of any skill position outside of quarterback, Jerry's on the top of that list too with 208. And he's a good 30-something ahead of the next guy, which is Emmitt Smith. Jerry Rice is just all over the record books for far more other things, and his records stand with distance between him and the next person in a lot of cases, especially in the playoffs. This guy was a 3-time Super Bowl champ, Super Bowl MVP, and 11-time All-Pro. Jerry did it all. The greatest non-quarterback for sure of all time, in my opinion. And like I said, if you say he's the greatest to ever play the game, regardless of position, including quarterbacks, I feel you. But we got to get to the next video. Stay tuned. We only got 2 more spots. And I'll give you a clue. They both quarterbacks. All right, that's all the time I got. Y'all know what it is, and you know who you looking for. J-Heat Sports Media. And I'm coming at y'all with that fire, as always. Stay tuned to more videos. Make sure you like and subscribe. Pass these videos on. You always can find me at YouTube, Instagram, X, and TikTok.